There is an amplifier on this list that costs less than a set of tires, and the man who owns it is happier than anybody I have heard from, with 10 times the money in theirs. I have read every comment on this channel for 2 years. Thousands of them. Men playing through a $200 combo in a spare room, and men with 4 boutique heads on a wall, and everybody in between. And after all of it, I keep coming back to the same uncomfortable thing, and it is not what the shops tell you. Not one person has ever written to me to say they sold an amplifier because they went off the sound. Not one in 2 years. They sold it because of what it weighed, or because nobody could fix it. So forget the badge, and forget the wattage. These are my 10 favorite guitar amplifiers, regardless of price. The definitive list, which means something sits at number 9 that a working man can buy this month, and something sits at number 2 that costs more than the car it goes in. Both earned it. Somebody is going to say, I have lost my mind at number 5. Good. I did not put it there on a whim, and I will read you the exact comments and the exact numbers when we get to it. One rule. Every amplifier here is one you can actually get hold of. New or genuinely findable used. No unicorns, no 4-year waiting lists, nothing that only exists in a photograph. Number 10. Before we go on, there is something the shops never tell you, and most players find out the day they try to sell. One number. 3. That is what the same guitar costs when the headstock changes. Same factory, same wood. Your father knew what he was holding. Nobody had to tell him. The difference was never money. It was knowing. 58 pages of that knowing in one book. Necks, frets, pickups, finish. The repairs worth paying for, and the ones that end a guitar. The Honest Gear Guide. HonestGuitarGuide.com. Back to it. Number 10. The Monoprice Stage. Right. At around $250. I know. A tube amplifier from the company that sells you cables, sitting on a definitive list. Stay with me, because I did not pick this one. 3 separate people in the comments on my last amp video picked it, without being asked, without knowing about each other. One of them wrote it out in full, and I am going to read you the whole thing because it is better than anything I could say about it. He built an open-backed cabinet out of a solid pine B-box, put a 12-inch Jensen in it, and finished with this. Total cost under $250, and I love my rig. That is a man who is happier with his amplifier than most people with 10 times the money in theirs. It is a straightforward, small tube circuit, the kind that has been public for 70 years, built cheaply and built adequately. It is on this list because at $250, the argument that you need money to get a real amplifier stops being true, and every single thing above it now has to justify itself. The honest catch, and every owner says the same thing. The speaker it comes with is the weak point. Everybody who loves one has changed it. Budget for that, and you are still under $400. Number 9. The Quilter Aviator Cub. Around $679. 21.5 pounds. That is the whole reason it is on the list, and I am going to say the number again, because I want it to land. 21.5 pounds, 50 watts, and one of my own viewers put it better than I will. It weighs 21 pounds, and it competes with the small Fenders at jams. Now, this is solid state, and I know exactly how that lands with some of you. So let me be straight about it, rather than sell you something. If what you want is a power tube working hard, if that specific compression and that specific way an amplifier gives up when you dig in is the thing you are chasing, this is not it, and I would not tell you otherwise. That feel is real, and I am not going to pretend a circuit board delivers it. but here's why it is at number 9 anyway. I have read hundreds of comments from men who have stopped carrying amplifiers upstairs. One of them is 82 and still gigging. He wrote that most of his amps are now too heavy for him to lift. An amplifier that stays in the room is worth nothing. This one goes with you. That is a legitimate reason for something to be on a definitive list, and anybody who tells you otherwise has never carried a combo up 2 flights at midnight. Number 8. The Traynor YCV50. Canadian. 50 watts, 2 EL34s, 312 AX7s, and a 12-inch Celestion. Depending on the version and the dealer, somewhere between $800 and $1,300. And here's what one of you wrote about it, which I have not been able to forget. He owns a 1968 Fender Super Reverb. He said it sounds amazing. Then he said the Traynor blows it out of the water. That is not a small thing to write down in public. That is a man with a genuine piece of history in his house saying the Canadian amplifier is the one he reaches for. Traynor built these like filing cabinets. They were made for bar bands who load in at 9 and load out at 2. And they have a reputation among technicians for being repairable in a way that modern amplifiers are not. Another review simply wrote, "Traynor gear is gold. If you see it, buy it." The catch: 45 pounds, and outside Canada, the used market is thin, so you may be waiting. Number 7. The Roland JC120. Solid state. Again, an unarguable. 120 watts in stereo, and the chorus that defined an entire decade of records. Around $1,400 new, and it has been essentially the same amplifier since the 70s, which tells you something on its own. One of you described the clean sound like this. So complex, and so beautiful, it would nearly make you cry. He came home from work one day, and it was gone. His son had taken it, and informed him he was not getting it back. That is the correct emotional response to a JC120. If you need a clean platform that will not break up no matter what you do to it, that will take pedals like a champion and behave identically at every volume, there is nothing else in this conversation. That is why it is on stages behind people who own rooms full of tube amplifiers. The catch is the same as the Traynor, and it is a real one. It is heavy, and 2 of my own viewers told me they had to let theirs go for exactly that reason. And if you want the amplifier itself to break up, it never will. That is the design, not a fault. Number 6. The Music Man. HD130. Now this one is a used market instrument only, so I am not going to give you a price, because I have not got a documented figure, and I am not going to invent one for you. Here's the story. When Leo Fender left the company with his name on it, he did not stop. He started again, and this is what came out of it. The circuit is unusual, the volume is genuinely alarming, and the people who owned one talk about it the way people talk about a house they sold. From my own comments, the best amplifier I ever owned, and from another, about the same amp, could kick myself now. I have read more regret about this amplifier than any other single piece of gear on the channel. The catch is why they sold them in the first place, and it is not subtle. It is extremely heavy, and it is extremely loud. Loud in a way that is genuinely unusable in most rooms a person actually plays in. And the preamp design divides people to this day. Number 5. The Peavey Classic. 30, around $550, and still being built today. Right. This is the one. I know that a Peavey at number 5 on a definitive list reads like a mistake. No magazine puts it here. No boutique dealer puts it here. So let me show you why it is here, because I did not decide this. On my last amp video, 4 separate comments about this amplifier collected 65, 57, 27, and 14 likes. 4 of the top comments on the whole video. Around 15 more people mentioned it further down. Nothing else came close. One wrote, "I had one in the 70s when I was a teenager. Thought I needed something bigger and better, and man, I wish I still had that thing." Another sold his 6 months ago and used the word sad. A third said, any Peavey with that preamp is a sleeper tone monster, and that people ask him about his tone. Now I want to be straight about what that is and what it is not. That is one comment section, not a survey. But it is around 20 experienced players, independently, without being asked and without knowing about each other, arriving at the same amplifier, and no other name on that video came close. That is good enough for number 5. It is not good enough for number 1, which is why it is not there. It is 30 watts, all tube, 2 channels, and the clean channel is a genuinely excellent pedal platform. It has been in production for over 30 years, which means parts, technicians, and knowledge all exist. The catch, and the owners say this themselves, so I will too. The speaker is the first thing to change, and a minority of owners report a hum that a technician could not fully chase out. Buy one you have heard. Number 4, Marshall, and specifically the 800 lineage and what it became. There is no honest list without this. If you have ever liked the sound of an electric guitar in a rock record made between 1980 and now, you have liked this amplifier. And here is a thing about it that almost nobody says out loud. The very first Marshall was a Fender circuit, copied straight across from a manual RCA had published for free. What changed was small, and none of it was mysterious. The first preamp tube went to a higher gain type. The open-backed cabinet became a closed-back Celestion, and the feedback loop moved. It was built by a repairman and an 18-year-old apprentice in London, because Fenders were expensive and hard to get in Britain. The British sound that everybody talks about started as an American circuit built by 2 men who could not afford the American amplifier. I find that a better story than the one usually told. The modern version sits around $1,000, weighs about 50 pounds, and Marshall's own copy says you can go from 40 watts to 20 at the flick of a switch. Let me tell you what that switch actually does, because it is sold badly. Having the power is about 3 decibels. That is barely a change in loudness at all. What it genuinely buys you is the power section starting to break up at a lower volume in the room, and that is worth having. But if somebody told you it makes it half as loud, they were wrong, and now you know. The catch is simple, and I do not think Marshall would argue. This is a one sound amplifier. It is a magnificent sound. It is not a clean sound, and it never really was. Number 3, the Vox, a C30. Chime. That is the word everybody reaches for, and there is not a better one. It is the sound of British records from the 60s onward, and nothing else does it. Around $1,300 for the current model. 2 things I have to tell you, and they are both things the marketing will not. The first, it is not Class A. The schematic and the advertising have disagreed about this for 60 years. Somebody measured it properly and found the tubes idling well past what genuine Class A would allow, and the modification that makes it truly Class A gives you 20 watts instead of 30. The schematic says one thing, the marketing department said another, and the amplifier is magnificent either way. But somebody sold you a word. The second, and this one will cost you. Vox publishes the weight themselves. The standard combo is just under 71 pounds. 71. If you are over 60 and you are loading in alone, look at the head and cabinet version instead, because the head is 41 pounds, and the heaviest single thing you lift goes down by 1/3, even though the total goes up. Number 2, The boutique tier. Carr, Matchless, Friedman, Swart. This is the one that makes the title honest. I said regardless of price, so here is the part where the price stops being small. No numbers on these. They move by model and by dealer, and I have not verified them, and I would rather tell you nothing than tell you wrong. Here is what your own words say. One of you settled on a Friedman as the amplifier you might keep until you die. Another took a Swart in a straight trade for an old Strat. A third owns a Carr, said he has never found those cleans anywhere else, and then, unprompted, admitted it is a bit pricey. That last man is the honest one. What you are buying at this level is ours and one person's judgment. Somebody chose that transformer, that speaker, and that circuit because of how it sounded to them, and no accountant overruled them. Sometimes, that is worth 3 times the money. Sometimes, it is a very expensive way to buy a slightly different mid-range, and you should be allowed to say so out loud. Play 1 before you spin that. If you cannot hear it in the room, that is an answer, not a failure. There is one thing at this level that genuinely is different though, and it has nothing to do with tone. Look at how the thing is built inside. If the components sit on a board with eyelets or turrets and wires run between them, a technician unsolders 2 joints and puts a new part in. That is a 30-minute job in any town in the country, in 30 years, by somebody who has not been born yet. If the tube sockets and the controls are mounted to the circuit board itself, then every tube you pull and every lead you plug in sends that force into the board. And when it finally cracks, it stops being a component job. That is what you are buying at this end, not a magic capacitor. A repair bill in 25 years that is $40 instead of a new amplifier. Number 1. The Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb, around $1,450. I thought about this for a long time, and I kept coming back to the same place. 22 watts, one 12-inch speaker, 42 pounds, and that is Fender's own published figure, not a guess. Reverb and tremolo that people have been trying to copy for 60 years and mostly failing. It is the most recorded amplifier in the history of the instrument. Not the loudest, not the rarest, not the most expensive. The one that turned up, worked, and made the record. And the reason it wins a list with no price limit is this. Every other amplifier here is the right answer to a specific question. The Quilter is the answer to carrying it. The Roland is the answer to staying clean. The Marshall is the answer to one particular sound. This one is the answer when you do not know the question yet. There is a practical argument for it as well, and it is the one that matters if you intend to keep it. The output transformer, which is the heaviest and most expensive part in there, and the one that sounds impossible to replace, is still made new in America as a drop-in, with the same mounting holes, for under $100. That is not true of a 1965 television. It is not true of the car. It is not true of anything with a screen in it. 60 years from now, somebody will still be able to fix this. And that is a real property of an object, not a marketing line. The catch, and it is genuine. 22 watts means it starts breaking up early, which is exactly what everybody wants, and also the reason it is the wrong amplifier for a loud stage where you need to stay clean. And 42 pounds is not nothing at 70 years old. If that is you, the smaller one in the same family is 34 pounds and the same circuit thinking, and nobody will think less of you. That is the list. 10 amplifiers, $250 to whatever you want to spend, and not one of them chosen because it was cheap or because it was expensive. I told you at the start what actually decides these things. Weight, and whether somebody can fix it. Every ranking above came off those two, and tone came third, because every amplifier here already sounds good. That was the entry requirement, not the ranking. And here is the last thing, which I have thought about a lot. 9 of the 10 men who wrote to me about the amplifier they regret selling were not talking about the tone. They were talking about a room and a band and being 30. The amplifier was just the thing that was in the room. So buy the one you will carry. Buy the one you can get fixed. And then stop reading lists, including this one, and go and play it. Now tell me where I got it. Wrong, and be specific, because I will read every one. What is the amplifier you would have put at number 1? And what did I leave off entirely? And the one I really want. The amplifier you sold and still think about. Make, model, and what it cost you to let it go.